4th of August 1914, Britain and the Commonwealth declared war on Germany. People celebrated the start of what became known as the Great War, and crowds gathered at Buckingham Palace to cheer. Patriotic enthusiasm and excitement followed the men as they flocked to recruiting offices to join the Army and Navy. Many people jeered the men who refused to fight. Huge crowds cheered and waved flags as the men marched away to war. As the war went on, fewer men volunteered to fight, so women were asked to encourage their menfolk. Women of Britain, say go. But what of those who stayed behind on the home front? The Great War affected everyone, including children. Some children helped to tend livestock and grow vegetables. Most of all, the war at home affected women. Women flocked to the factories as the men before them had rushed to the recruiting offices. Vital and dangerous work that men had done in the past was taken on by women. Making munitions, operating machinery, working with glass, gas and coal, running the railways, driving and repairing vehicles. Despite the hard and hazardous work, women enjoyed their new jobs and were proud to be doing their bit. The destruction and death of the Great War was not just overseas, but at home too, when bombs were dropped by zeppelins and aeroplanes. Germany's U-boat blockade caused food shortages in Britain. Food rationing was introduced to ensure that everybody was able to eat. The effects of the Great War were seen on the home front, with hospitals all over the country treating wounded men. Many towns and villages hosted refugees from Belgium. Other visitors were from much further away. Men from India, Africa, and the West Indies came to Britain to fight in the Great War. When the war finally ended in November 1918, the whole world had been shaken and remade. For women in particular, the changes would be long-lasting, and we still see the effects today.
Let no tears add to their hardships as the soldiers pass along. And although your heart is breaking, make it sing this cheery song. Keep the home fires burning while your hearts are yearning.
Proud as the peacock. Friends protecting me, and me protecting friends. We couldn't wait to get there. Squelch! Bombs and mud everywhere. Cold, shivering soldiers in the death trenches. Strong soldiers stuck in the mud. It felt like a living hell. The super snipers stood waiting for the enemy. As the soldiers peeked over the trenches, they heard firing or screaming. Bullets shooting through through my head. Powerful voice shaking me up. Boom! The mud looked like puddles of thick red blood trickling from a soldier. Trees in no man's land like fingers creeping, looking for lost souls. Dead bodies scattered everywhere. Everything went black.
Cry, don't cry, there's a silver lining in the sky. Bonsoir, all things cheerio, chin chin, na boo, toodaloo, goodbye. Little Private Hendrik saw he was the prisoner of war. Till the hand with the gun called his big dog for fun and fairly punched him on the door. Right across the barbed wire fence, the German dropped then dear, oh dear. All the while gave way and fairly yelled hooray as he ran for the Dutch frontier. Goodbye, goodbye, wipe a dear baby from your eye. Though it's hard to pass, I know, I'll be single and just to go. Don't cry, don't cry, there's a silver lining in the sky. Bonsoir, all things cheerio.
Impressions of Stamford in 1914 is very much of England in microcosm. It was a prosperous small town, and within that there were many different industries, and Blackstones was one such industry that was making machines but adapted to make munitions. And I think that all that together with a huge 300 odd men leaving on the first subscription to go to war, so a lot of women were left in the town, and they sort of came together with the influence and inspiration of the mayor and mayoress at the time to really try their best to support those troops and the country in general. And so the hospitality offered to the Belgians in the form of billets and food and accommodation and parties and care, I've been very impressed with, because it must have been a huge culture shock for Stamford at that time.
Squelch, squelch, squelch. Soldiers march to the mud. Attention! They stared closely at their reflection as shiny as a jewel. Bulky roots rising quickly. The water is a moving mirror. I can see the shadows of the wounded upset men. The men were so determined to go to war. When they got there, the water dribbled, and all was silent. The trenches as muddy as a river. I can feel the water gushing into my boots. The mud is dancing through my toes. Splish, splash, as freezing water trickles. The trench was as full as a stream. Soldiers shouting at their foe. The war has ended. Down in The mud ran through the hole in my big black boots. They fell to drown. Ow. They were stuck in the thick mud. As the bombs blew up. Pop, 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 the bullets fired. They were laying on the floor as still as statues. Bones, branches creaking spookily in the soldiers' heads. The soldier is a tiger, about pounds. I can see the men pretending to be dead so they don't get shot. The bombing is as loud as a herd of naughty elephants stomping in the desert. The bombing is lousy lice laid in soldiers' shirts. The soldier is a loaded rifle ready to pounce. I can see scared men getting ready to pounce on the enemy. Ah! Bricks sighed as another foot stood on them. Puff, puff, mumble, murmur, they crowd together.
Brother Bertie went away to do his bit the other day. With a smile on his lips and his lieutenant pips upon his shoulder, bright and gay. As the train moved out, he said, "Remember me to all the birds." Then he wagged his paw and went away to war, shouting out these pathetic words. Goodbye, goodbye, oh, I'm so dear, baby dear, from your eye. Though it's hard to part, I know, I'll be deeper than death, it goes so right.
When I was given this commission, or we talked about the commission, we were trying to think of ways in which we could display the community work and the school work that was sympathetic to the First World War. And initially you sort of tend to think you just put boards up and people could then get easy access to it, but the more I thought about it, the more I felt that it would be good if people had some sort of experience. And a few years ago I went to Ypres and there was a trench museum there, and I just thought to myself, actually that idea of enclosure and things being very tight, it definitely gives you an atmosphere of being in the trench. And so it seemed to be fairly natural actually that we could build a trench to present the work and make it out of sandbags and all sorts of detritus that basically the trenches were made out of. They were not, at least in 1914, constructed in a way that was particularly thought out. It was basically survival, because war like that had never been fought before, and so consequently they didn't know the type of fire they'd be under, and they certainly didn't anticipate the mud in the fields. So the first trenches were very roughly excavated, and then anything to hand, a blown up tree, a window frame, an old cart, anything just to shore those muddy walls up. And I think I'd like to get that across. Obviously we can't put the mud in, we can't put the duck boards in, but at least people get the idea that it was very makeshift and it was basically survival.
at the concert down at Kew. Some convalescents dressed in blue. Had to hear Lady Lee, who had turned 83, sing all the old songs she knew. Then she made a speech and said, I looked upon you, sing all the old songs she knew.
The idea that I got of pinning the community work to the sandbags and the pallets was really taken from a photograph I saw, which I found very poignant at the time, of soldiers in the First World War that had received packages, and I got the impression that these packages were in particular for Christmas, and several of the soldiers had pinned up things that they'd received, and they would have been things like the embroidered postcards that people sent, maybe a letter, sort of mementos, because you know these soldiers were in the trenches for maybe up to at least 3 weeks, sometimes more, sometimes less, but they were there for a reasonable period of time, and this idea that somebody had pinned something up onto their trench to read, and then would go over the top, and I thought that was it really gave you an impression of how much people still wanted to have that comfort from home. And so it seemed a good idea to put the community work, all the letters and the poetry and pictures that primarily the children have done of the schools in Stamford, to get to again sort of reflect that habit of the soldiers in the trenches. Braziers were used in the First World War as a means to heat the troops up, and there's often photographs you see of the troops obviously not engaged in battle, warming their hands, and because I have reconstructed a trench, it seemed a very fitting piece of sculpture to have something that resembled braziers, but contained within the sides of the drums that I've used are the stories of Stamford, and what I mean by that is there's the skyline of Stamford, there's Burghley House, and their contribution to the war effort for the wounded soldiers by opening giving some beds for particularly the officers at the time, the town hall, and all the stories that are involved around the hospitality given to the Belgian refugees at the beginning of the First World War, and the Christmas parties they had. And so it seemed that although it contains all the stories of the front line, the home front, to keep the home fires burning, the hearth, the idea of comfort is contained all within those oil drums.
While your hearts are young.